If you've seen my most recent videos, you'll know that I've been on a skeleton theme for a while, and I've got this and maybe one or two other kits that I've got to do to complete that theme out. And this one is the Bandai Triceratops skeleton molded in Limex. Let's talk about Limex for a minute. I am not a fan. It can be brittle. The parts almost fall off and have actually fallen off the runners. I've had parts break on me without much pressure, so I'm not a fan of it. I think Bandai did this Triceratops and the Tyrannosaurus Rex kit, and those were the only two they did of dinosaurs in the Limex, and then they stopped producing it. Yeah, I can see why they stopped. Anyway, so I'm going to jump into this one here, and let's see what this adventure holds. All right, let's go ahead and do an unboxing. I've found that the Bandai kits tend to give a little more information on the sides, particularly this side here. It shows some more views of the model. The Bandai kits tend to come with these bands that they slide off pretty easy. I don't know why they don't use regular shrink wrap, but they don't. They use these bands. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tear that off. All right, let's open it up. Of course, we have our parts. I'll open this up in a minute. And we have our instructions. And it shows the Triceratops and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, some information about it. And then we have the actual instructions here. And there are about 4 main steps. And it does show how you can, put the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Triceratops bases together. I haven't done that yet. I may here soon. Anyway, it's pretty straightforward. I'm probably going to be using super glue on a lot of this. You can do this as a snap together kit. It doesn't actually snap. Parts can go together without glue, but I'm going to super glue these. So let's look at the parts here. I'll just open it this way here. We have, of course, the base, which unfortunately it doesn't come with a nameplate. This is B1 on here. I like bases, but I also like nameplates. I feel kind of cheated without a nameplate. And I felt something. Yeah, I'm going to very gingerly take this off. See, this just fell off. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the tail on sprue or runner A2. There's the skull. And we've got the legs and the rib cage and the spine here. So I'm going to put these back in the box. Now my next step is going to be to clean the parts, and I'll go over that in a minute. But that's pretty much the kit. It's pretty easy to put together. So let's get to cleaning parts. In the injection molding process, a release agent is often used. which is great for getting the parts out of the molds. However, that could leave a residue that could interfere with your paint job. So my process is to first squirt the parts down with Windex, then wipe them down, then squirt them down again with water and wipe that down. And I've never had any problem with release agent getting in the way of my paint job. After the parts dried after being cleaned, I proceeded with assembly. The first assembly was step one, the head. And you start off with the top of the skull and basically the roof of the mouth. After that, you add the jaw in, then the two horns. I super glued parts of these in, especially the horns, because sometimes with these Limex kits, the parts can just fall right off. So I wanted to secure those. Step two was the body, and you start off by connecting basically the neck to the spine and the upper back also to the spine, and then connecting the two rib cage pieces. Lastly, you add in the two hip joints. In step three, you're connecting the legs. So each leg has two parts to it on both the front legs and the back legs. And I did not glue these down because I wasn't sure how it was going to stand, and it was better to go ahead and leave them articulated. I did the same thing with the head. I did not glue the head down because I wasn't sure how I wanted to pose it, and it was just easier to leave that articulated. Step four was pretty easy, just putting it on the base. You could glue that down, I suppose. I chose not to because when I go to paint this, I want to be able to do the base separate from the model itself. Now, you can connect, or not so much connect, but place the Tyrannosaurus and the Triceratops bases, and you can butt those together. I might try that. I haven't tried it yet, but I probably won't display that on the shelf that way. So that completes the assembly. For this model, I decided to use Mr. Oxide Red Surfacer 1000, and I've used Tamiya's red oxide primer, and I want to say I've used this one once before, and often you use red oxide primers for things that eventually are going to look rusty. But I think for this, it might be a good to give it kind of a reddish tint, because sometimes you'll see red clay and some fossils actually look kind of red. So we're going to give this a shot and see what it does. For the base coat, I started off with model color pale brown mixed with model color leather brown and Vallejo Mecha weathering light rust wash. Mix those together, and then I thinned them out and applied that to the model. Now, the reason I thinned that out is so that with the skeleton I could get into all the little nooks and crannies and get good coverage. Because it is so thin, I will probably have to do a second coat, either with the same paints or with different paints. I'll know once it dries. So I decided to do a second base coat with Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown, Vallejo Model Color Hull Red, and again with the Vallejo Mecha Weathering Light Rust Wash. Mix those together to do a thin wash so I can get into all the cracks, and applied that. So we should be able to move on, once this dries, into the next step. After letting the second base coat dry, I hit it with some Tamiya Flat Clear. And the reason I did that is because I found that if you don't do that and then go over it with another wash, it may very well wash away the previous paint that you did. So I sealed it with the Flat Clear. Then I moved on to a dark wash to get into all the little tiny cracks and between the ribs, and to contrast with a light color dry brush that I'll do later. So to do that dark wash, I used Vallejo Model Color Black Brown and then Vallejo Color Black. And I again used the Vallejo Mecha Weathering Light Rust Wash. And I use that, and I've used that through the previous coats, just so that there's kind of a consistent undertone that helps everything look unified. The last part of the paint job was the highlights. And to do that, I used a mix of Vallejo Model Color Ivory, Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown, and Vallejo Mecha Weathering Light Rust Wash. So I mixed those together and took a stiff bristle brush and dry brushed in a perpendicular direction to any ridges or bumps or anything that would give it texture. So those things would stand out, would pop out. So wasn't quite the look that I thought I was going for, but actually it turned out pretty good. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm going to go ahead and show this since we're here. The instructions show that you can put the two bases together. And this is kind of like what the Prehistoric scenes kits could do, is that you could put them together in one big diorama display. So here it is. This is what it looks like in case you were curious. This Bandai Limex Triceratops skeleton is done. And this one didn't go together quite as bad as the Tyrannosaurus Rex that I just did. Pretty pleased with the paint job. Not exactly what I was originally going for, but it came out decently. So, yeah, here you go. Pretty quick. I mean, I think I did the whole assembly in about 30 minutes. So, not that difficult of a build to do. I'm still not a fan of the Limex material. I think it is still problematic, and I'm glad they're not making any more kits with it, as far as I know. So, all right. Well, there we go. I've got, in terms of the skeleton theme, I've got two more skeletons to go. One is a big ESA Link. I think that's the name of the company. It's a puzzle skeleton, so it doesn't have any instructions. But it's like going to be huge. It's going to be like 24 inches long, or 24 inches something, tall, long, we'll find out. And the other one is I want to say it's a Palmer. Originally the company was Palmer. It's a Cro-Magnon kit that has the skeleton and then a figure with it. So, and that should round out the skeleton theme. But again, here it is, the Bandai Triceratops skeleton in Limex. So there we go. Thanks for joining me, and stay tuned for more adventures.